These are the scenes of Racing Club de Avellaneda fans celebrating with unbridled joy after clinching the 2024 Copa Sudamericana. The title marks their first continental award in 36 years and their first major triumph on the stage since 1967. For Racing fans, this victory is more than just a trophy. It represents the culmination of decades of heartbreak, struggles, and unwavering loyalty. To truly grasp why this moment is so historic, we need to revisit the incredible story of Racing Club. Racing Club was founded in 1903 and they quickly earned the title La Academia, the Academy of Football, for their early dominance in the 20th century. Between 1913 and 1919, the club went on to win 7 consecutive titles, which is a record still that hasn't been beaten by any club in South America. Fast forward to 1949 and the club would go on to win yet another 3 consecutive titles, which coincided with the club's move to El Cilindro, which is their current stadium. In fact, them winning those 3 titles was also seen as a blessing for them moving into that new stadium. And then the crown jewels of all of their achievements came in 1967 when they lifted the Copa Libertadores after beating Nacional of Uruguay. In that same year, they went on to compete in the Intercontinental Cup and they faced Glasgow Celtic in the final. At the time, they were the European Cup champions after beating Real Madrid. In that final, Racing went on to beat Glasgow Celtic, meaning that not only were they the champions of South America, but they were also champions of the world. So in 1967, Racing ended up being South American champions, but also world champions. And then when you consider everything that happened in the years after 1967 for Racing, the saying couldn't be any more fitting that the bigger you are, the harder you fall. Racing Club's golden era, crowned with that 1967 Intercontinental Cup win against Glasgow Celtic, was however not celebrated by everyone in Argentina. The Buenos Aires Herald recounts that their biggest rivals and neighbours Independiente were seething. After they themselves reached the Intercontinental Cup final in the 2 years prior, they lost both of those against Inter Milan. It's here that myth intertwines with reality. Depending on what you believe, but according to the Herald, a group of Independiente fans were fueled with jealousy and they went to a local witch who plotted a big plan for them, and they capitalised on the fact that Racing Club's night watchman was an Independiente fan. So collectively they put together this plan to bury 7 black cats underneath the stadium at El Cilindro. The idea of this plan was to curse the club into failure. Now whether it's curse or coincidence, no one will ever know, but by the end of 1967, Racing's form took a massive nosedive. By the end of the year, where they'd won the Copa Libertadores and the Intercontinental Cup, they went on to lose their final game of the season with a 4-0 defeat to their rivals Independiente. And then by the 1980s, Racing had become a shadow of their former title-winning selves, whilst Independiente, on the other hand, they were going through a golden era of their own. And then by 1983, the worst possible nightmare happened for Racing Club when they were relegated. On the final day of that season, they were heading to Independiente's La Doble Visera, where they ended up losing 2-0 and handed Independiente the title. Desperate to change the fortunes of the club, later managers such as Juan Carlos Lorenzo and Alfilo Basile ordered that the pitch would be dug up to unearth these 7 cats. And as the story goes, the Independiente fans put 6 of the cats underneath the goalpost whilst there was 1 cat remaining, and it was in a hidden location where only the night watchman, who was an Independiente fan back in 1967, only he was aware of the location. And as you might have guessed, whilst there were 6 cats found and removed, there was 1 still remaining, which meant that the curse would continue for Racing Club. Whilst it was never confirmed if they found the final cat, players and fans alike were convinced that there was still 1 remaining. But after a few years in the second division, they found themselves promoted back to where they belong. Throughout the 90s, whilst they were in the top flight, they weren't really competing at the top end of the table, and come the end of the century, they were hit by financial ruin. The situation was so bad that even one of the top officials at the club had stated that they had ceased to exist. But Racing fans never gave up. Through consistent legal battles and protests, they saved their club from what looked like a certain death. And somehow by 2001, they'd helped their club so much that they were in a position to win a league title, in which they did in that year of 2001, ending a drought of 35 years. And in the years prior to that 2001 title, there were stories of people putting holy water onto the stadium. There was reports of up to 15,000 people going into the stadium and trying to bless it in order to bring back some good fortunes. But it didn't really bring much, as straight after that game where that happened, they ended up losing 2-0. But then fast forward to that 2001 title, manager at the time, Reinaldo Mustacho Merlo, he was so superstitious about this cat that he ordered that they dug up the entire stadium in order to search for that final one. And it was allegedly reported that they found it under the actual stands of the stadium. And then after that, well, the story writes itself. They won their title after 35 years of wait. So fast forward to this current campaign, and Racing Club hit the ground running in this year's Copa Sudamericana. Finishing the group stage with 5 wins from 6, they managed to get good wins against RB Bragantino of Brazil and Coquimbo Unido. With 3 wins from 3 at home, they ended up getting the best record of any team in the group stage of the tournament. In the round of 16, Racing dismantled Huachipato with an aggregate score of 8-1. Their quarter-final tie with Atlético Paranaense of Brazil was a lot tougher after losing in Brazil, but they managed to win with a 4-1 scoreline back in Argentina. Their win against Paranaense meant that they would be returning to Brazil, but this time to face Corinthians. A 2-2 draw in the first leg meant that it was all to do in the second, and in that second leg they found themselves 2-0 down to Corinthians, but they responded with 3 of their own to qualify for the final. This meant that they would reach their first continental final since 1992 and their first major final since 1967. And then before talking about what happened in the final, it's important to appreciate the man that helped make all of this happen, Gustavo Costas. As a player, he rose through the club's academy before helping Racing get promoted back to the top flight in 1985. He then returned to the club at the turn of the century as an assistant manager before going on a bit of a journey around Latin America and even the Middle East, where in 2011 he was the manager of Al Nassr. So a man that had witnessed the club's highs and lows, Costas was a man that embodied the resilience. Now back competing at one of the highest points of South American football, Racing fans were just happy that they've got a man leading them that was also one of them. And so the stage was set. Racing would be heading to the Paraguayan capital of Asunción to face Brazilian outfit Cruzeiro. In actual fact, these two have a bit of history because they met each other in the 1988 Supercopa Libertadores final, where Racing got the last laugh, but when they met each other in the same final 4 years later, it was Cruzeiro who came out on top. And with the final underway, it was Racing who started like a house on fire. Already having a goal disallowed, Gaston Martirena scored from the byline to give them a stunning lead. Moments later, Adrian Martinez doubled the lead for Racing, and they were well on course to win their first serious title since 1967. 2-0 to the good, but Racing weren't going to have an easy end to the game as Cruzeiro pulled one back through Kyle Jorge to set up a nail-biting finish. And in the dying moments of the game, and considering everything that Racing fans have had to go through throughout their history, some of their fans couldn't even bear to watch. But what I can only imagine is one of the most beautiful moments in the club's history as Roger Martinez was racing down on goal and slotted home to make it 3-1 to Racing, securing that they would win this year's Copa Sudamericana. So 57 years of wait have finally come to an end for Racing Club de Avellaneda as they return to the summit of South American football. This victory isn't just about the players on the pitch, but it's about the fans in the stands that have stuck by the club's side through all of the heartbreak, the relegation, the financial crisis. This is for everyone associated with the club. So if you're watching this video as a fan of the club, congratulations, any players, anyone associated to the club. It's a massive win. It's a monumental moment for everyone associated. So what do you think the future holds for La Academia? Let me know.